The Palace Theatre was built in 1912 in Westcliff-On-Sea. Originally known as the Palace of Varieties, it seated 1,500 people. This is compared to the 603 that it seats today. The stage is said to be the steepest rake in the UK at 1 to 18. The theatre was then bought in 1919 and transformed into a cinema, but due to the rake of the circle, projecting from the front would have been impossible. This meant an annex had to be built at the back of the stage. This annex still stands today and is used as a key part of staging in some productions. During the two World Wars, the theatre mainly played host to touring ballets and theatre companies. The theatre managed to survive both World Wars as well as surviving air raids without any major damage.
Two World Wars obviously happened after it opened. First World War changed its use a little bit because the theatre had to be used to do recruitment driving and campaigning for people to join the army and navy and enlist. So it became very much, it had another edge. And in between the wars, it went back to repertory theatre fairly substantially. So an awful lot of theatre with cinema sort of woven into it up until the Second World War.
The theatre has not always been running strong though. In 1939, the theatre closed its doors for financial reasons, but it reopened in 1942 when Gertrude Milliams, the previous owner of the theatre, presented it to the Southend Corporation's entertainment manager.
In 1919, a lady called Gertrude Millier bought the theatre for £25,000, which was a lot of money in those days. She was an actress and she wanted to run the theatre. As many things she tried, but the most important was that she ran it as a cinema, a picture house. And she did that for a number of years, and in 1942 she actually, instead of leaving the theatre as inheritance to her children or selling the theatre on to somebody else, she donated it to the people of Southend.
The theatre has closed many times since then as well, the most recent of which being in 2005, but protests and a petition with over 22,000 names on it helped to get the theatre to reopen the following year. To help organise the running of the theatre, Southend Borough Council chose HQ Theatres to run and manage the Palace Theatre and Cliffs Pavilion, now known as Southend Theatres.
As of 2006, a company called HQ Theatres took over the venue, and from 2006 have been running the Palace Theatre in association with the Cliffs Pavilion, and it's been going from strength to strength. So unfortunately, over the years, the Palace has had a lot of closures. It's had periods where it's lost a lot of money, and now since HQ have taken over and it's become a receiving house, then it has been going from strength to strength.
In 1982, the theatre bought the building to its west and built the workshop, courtyard and wardrobe department, along with the Dixon Studio, which holds up to 100 patrons. The Dixon Studio plays host to many shows throughout the year, including small amateur dramatic shows and children's pantomimes. In 2012, the Palace Theatre celebrated its centenary by putting on a community show about the history of the theatre. The cast and crew of the show were made up of members of local amateur dramatic societies and local schools. For many of them, it was the first time they'd been on stage.
The community project was done in the centenary year, brought together people. For some, it's the first time they've been on that stage. Most of them have probably sat in the audience and watched shows. That had an amazing connection with those people. They still meet, they still get together and have their social gatherings, and of course they support the theatre, so it's fantastic.
In early 2013, the theatre was refurbished, a new carpet was laid, seats were repaired, and dressing room and backstage areas were redecorated and refurbished. 2014 brought a visit by royalty as the Prince of Wales and Duchess of Cornwall came to see a gala performance by the Shakespeare Schools Festival to launch its 15th year and celebrate the 450th anniversary of the Bard's birth. This visit is the first known time that members of the royal family have visited the theatre. Many people have performed at the theatre over the years, both solo performances as well as big casting shows. Many big shows have been put on at the theatre since it opened, including more recently Avenue Q, Michael McIntyre and West Side Story. The theatre's fate currently looks secure, with more shows and UK tours planning to come to the theatre in the coming years.
But we are getting some fantastic events here now. For example, Prince Charles and Camilla came and visited here, and we've had Michael McIntyre do some warm-ups here. So we are starting to get those much bigger names wanting to come to the venue because it's beautiful, a beautiful venue.
In 2012, in its centenary year, Palace Theatre Club collected an archive of every show ever been put on at the theatre since it opened. This archive is available online on their website. Thank you very much for watching.